I know that heartache is inevitable when I read that book, so I'm not reading it yet.
Let that wave crash over my head and pull me deeper. Let the water fill my lungs, make me stay forever young.
Hey guys, it's Jocelyn and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my first book haul of the year. I can't even remember the last time I did a haul, but I'm just going to start fresh with January, and hopefully whatever books that I've forgotten to haul on my channel, you'll just see throughout my videos when I finally get to reading them. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. So the first two books I want to go ahead and get out the way because I just did a video on it. I'll link it up above if you want to go check it out. But I did a video where I read 3 books that were compared to my favorite book of all time, which is Akamath, which you can see right there. Akamath is my favorite book of all time, and I read these books to try to get the same feels from Akamath. And if you want to see if I did, then you can go watch the video. But for now, I'm just going to haul them. The first one that I read was The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle Jensen, who is also the author of Stolen Songbird. And this book basically follows a princess who is tasked to marry a king from an enemy kingdom as a political move. So basically her marrying him is supposed to make this political alliance between their two kingdoms and stop all the bad blood between them. Except she is definitely being sent there to be some type of spy, and she is supposed to take over his kingdom. Obviously, you can tell by the cover, you can probably tell by this plot alone, things might go awry, she might fall in love, she might not, and she has to have some type of battle between herself and what she's been told and what she believes as she's there to figure out what exactly she wants to do. And spoiler alert, I did really like this one, and I definitely would recommend checking it out, even though this isn't a wrap-up. The next book that I read for this video was Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton, and this one I had actually a lot of things to say about in that video if you want to go watch it, if you want to know my opinion. But as of now, I'm going to stay unbiased and just say what this book is about. So basically, this book is about a girl named Fortuna Sworn who is part of a species that are called nightmares, and nightmares can touch your skin, and when they touch your skin they can find out what your biggest fears are, and then they can make you feel like you're living that biggest fear. And so Fortuna Sworn is a nightmare, and she is propositioned by a fairy to marry him in order to find her missing brother, who has been missing for 2 years with no luck of her finding him. And this fairy comes out of nowhere basically and just says that if she marries him, then he will help her find her brother. And from there she marries him and goes down into the Unseelie Court and has to go through a lot of obstacles and trials in order to try to find her brother and then subsequently free her brother. So those are the two that I wanted to get out of the way because I did a specific video on them. So I kind of technically hauled them because you guys definitely know I already own them from that video, and the rest I will go into a little bit more detail for. Alright, so the next couple books that I want to go over, I'm kind of doing these in like piles of how I categorize them in my head. It shouldn't be hard to make sense of once I explain it, but yeah. So the first pile that I have are ones that have been sent to me during isolation by some of my friends in the book community. I have already thanked all of them like separately and individually, but obviously I'm going to thank them again in this video as I'm hauling the books. So the first ones were actually sent to me from a giveaway. I can't remember the name of the channel because I don't know if it's their Instagram name as well, but it is a duo of sisters who just recently hit 50 subscribers, and they had a 50 subscriber giveaway, and I entered and I actually won. I'll put their channel name right here. I want to say it's Double A Books, but I feel like I'm completely off, but I'll put their channel name right here. Definitely go check them out. They're really sweet, and yeah, I just really like their channel, and this was what I won in their giveaway. They actually gave away the Carval series, and that was just because they had recently finished reading it and absolutely loved it, so they decided to give it away because they want more people to read the series. And I won the giveaway. They gifted me the hardcover box set of Carval, Legendary, and Finale, and I am very, very happy to have it. I've heard mixed reviews about the series, but I definitely want to go in and form my own opinion about it just because I don't always fall in line with what everyone else likes. So I obviously don't know what the whole entire series is about, but oh my god, look at that. I love, that's so stunning. And also this is underneath the dust jacket. I'm gonna explain the book, I swear, but this is underneath the dust jacket. It's kind of sad compared to UK editions where they have like the actual tint and stuff like that. Those are stunning, but these I feel like are good as well, just because Look at that shine. I love it. But the first book is basically about a pair of sisters named Scarlett and Tella. And Scarlett really loves the idea of this traveling carnival that comes to her town every once in a while that is named Caraval. And she really wants to go, but you have to have a special invitation in order to go, and she's never gotten one. Except this year she does, and her and her sister go, and it turns out that when they get there, her sister Tella is kidnapped, and the whole Caraval revolves around finding her sister, and whoever finds her sister is the winner. It sounds really, really cool to me. I'm so confused as to how her sister gets kidnapped once she's there, and how they came to the conclusion that the Caraval would revolve around her sister. I feel like it's such a unique idea, and I really, really, really am excited to see how it plays out, especially because I want to see if there's some type of magic in here. I haven't necessarily heard if there is, but I know my friend Julie from Julie's Book Endeavors, I think that's her channel name, really, really loves this book, and our tastes align pretty perfectly when it comes to books. We usually have one or two off, but usually we're spot on with what the other one likes. So I feel like because she likes it, that I would like it as well. So really excited for this. Here's the cover of the first one. Here's the cover of this second one, Legendary. Sorry if there's type of glare, that's my ring light. And here's the cover of the last one, Finale. And so the next book that I have that was gifted to me by Simone from Chasing Pages, who is someone that I've gotten pretty close to on BookTube, and I really love her content. If you're looking for chill, artsy content, she is the one to go to. I love her videos when I'm just trying to relax, especially her vlogs or any type of like creative video that she does is really, really calming and relaxing. So definitely check out Simone. But the book that she gave me was The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I actually have done a try a chapter tag on this book, and I had this checked out from my library, and the first two chapters that I read I absolutely adored. I thought it was so well done, and I feel like it has such a unique idea for the story. This book is basically about a girl named Yen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, but here we are. It follows a girl named Yen, and basically her mother dies under some mysterious circumstances, and she's not sure why. There's still some type of ambiguity surrounding that, and after her mother dies, she has to go into the kingdom in the sky where her grandfather rules. And once there, she is named the heir to the throne, except she has to fight for her place. So she basically becomes part of this type of internal power struggle, some type of political scheme and things like that to figure out who is going to end up being the heir. So it sounds really cool. I really like any type of book with a competition aspect where the character basically has to prove themselves and become their best version of themselves in order to get what they want. I love those types of things like Hunger Games, Red Rising, all of those type of competitions I'm so here for. And this is also pitched from Heather from Aphrodite Reads as a story for people who were Darkling and Alina stan. So like, people who really wanted that relationship to pan out are apparently supposed to love this book. So I'm here for it because everyone knows the Darkling was the best choice. Like, there's no competition there. So to get that in this book, I am really excited to get it. So the next book I actually just unboxed in my vlog. You probably won't see it until Tuesday, but this was actually such a big surprise, and the book that I got was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Let's just appreciate this flop real quick. Here we go. Look at that. I'm literally making a fan, like blowing my papers, but we stand. And this book was gifted to me by Aaliyah, and I'll link her channel down below, of course. And I've really gotten close to Aaliyah as well on BookTube. I don't want to give my story, but I don't want to give my story for each person during this video, but I obviously appreciate them sending something, so I wanted to give you a little bit of context and how I knew them. But yeah, I met Aaliyah through BookTube. Really love her channel, love her content. She gives such great underrated recs, so definitely check her out. But I have been wanting this book for months, ever since I have just been on this Brandon Sanderson kick. I say that as I have not finished one book of his, but I have been on the idea of Brandon Sanderson kick. I really want to get into Mistborn first before I get into this series, but there's something about this cover, especially the hardcover of this, that just draws me in, and I really, really just want to go ahead and get into this because I've been looking to get into adult fantasy, which you will see throughout this entire video. All of the books that I've purchased recently have been adult fantasy, so my eye has definitely been on this one, especially because of Daniel Green and his recommendations for the best like epic adult high fantasies. The synopsis of this book is very, very vague, and it doesn't really tell me much of a story, so I'm not sure exactly what this book follows, but I know it follows four main kind of archetypes. The first being not an archetype, but just four main characters who have these personalities. But yeah, the first one is a surgeon. The second is an assassin, and this is interesting. It says an assassin, a murderer who weeps as he kills. And that, I love assassin. I love. I hate your hair and makeup today. Anyway, I love assassin characters who kind of have a soft side. Like if you know Elias from An Ember in the Ashes, love him and his character and all his character development. I find it so interesting. So really excited for that character. We also have a liar, some young woman who wears a scholar's mantle over the heart of a thief, and then we lastly have a prince. So I'm really excited to see how all these characters' stories interweave. I know that with this series there's supposedly a lot of characters that are followed. Like I'm sure it's not just these four, because every time I look into this series it talks about how basically you need to take notes when you read it because there's so many characters and they never stop being introduced. But I'm game for the challenge. I'm excited to just go ahead and jump right in and see if I sink or float. We'll see. You guys are going to come on this journey with me, obviously on my channel, and we're just going to get into it. Alright, so the last books that were gifted to me were also a box set, kind of like the one that I won on the giveaway, which was just so fucking nice. And yeah, this box set that was given to me was also Brandon Sanderson. There's a bit of a theme in this haul so far. But yeah, I got the Mistborn Trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, and my friend Sammy from Sammy Reads gifted this to me at the beginning of Isolation because they started Mistborn. Hold on, I'll pull it up. So they started Mistborn as Isolation just began, and they fell in love like from page 1, and they thought that would be something that I liked as well. They're probably hating me right now as I'm talking about this because I'm literally only 40 pages in and they want me to catch up because they're like on page 400. But I'm such a mood reader, so whenever they tell me to read it, I don't want to because I feel like it's authority, and when you tell me to read something then I don't want to read it. So I haven't picked it up, but I am going to get through it because I'm loving what I'm reading so far. So thank you, Sammy. This series basically follows, obviously I don't know what the last two books follows, but this book follows a world in which the villain has won. So we had a hero rise up, he failed, and so the villain is ruling the world. And yet this book follows another revolt that is trying to happen. It is in some way led by this kind of street urchin named Vin, who is our heroine, and she has some type of magic that revolves around meadows. That's all that I know. Not that far in to give you more than that, but everyone raves about this series. Recently I've been seeing more bad reviews, not bad, but more people are thinking it's average more recently. But me myself, I think that I'll like it, and if I don't love the first book, which I don't see happening, I think that as the series progresses, I've heard that it does nothing but get better. So I'm really excited to get this. I'm really excited that this is the first book that's starting my Brandon Sanderson journey, just because I've heard that this is the best one to start with, and so I'm following the rules for the first time. That's not the first time. I'm such a Ravenclaw / type 3 that you guys know that it's not my first time following the rules. I do nothing but follow the rules, but I say that to make myself feel better. Right, and so all the rest of the books I purchased myself, and like I said, they've been purchased from sometime from January to now, only a few of which I bought during Isolation, which is surprising, and a lot of which are from thrift books, but I'll tell you as I get through them. So the first book that I bought during Isolation, which was literally the first book that I bought during Isolation, was Tweet Cute by Emery Lord, and I've heard nothing but good things about this book from all of my romance booktubers that I really trust, such as Chelsea Darling Reads and maybe Books with Shay. I can't remember if Books with Shay read this one, but it was someone else that said this one was really good. So this book follows Pepper and Jack, and Pepper is kind of this perfectionist type character, and Jack is a class clown type character. And Pepper runs this Twitter account for something called Big Lee's Burgers, and apparently that Twitter account stole one of Jack's grandma's famous grilled cheese recipes, and so Jack kind of tries to take them down via Twitter. So they get in this kind of viral spat over Twitter where they're going back and forth and they're just arguing over Twitter basically. And somewhere in between them arguing with each other on Twitter, they are also talking to each other anonymously through another app. So they're fighting on one app and kind of falling in love on the other app. And that kind of reminds me of a lot of new adult books that I've read, kind of like My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. This is not new adult, by the way. I think this is YA contemporary, but it reminds me of some new adult books that I've read, like My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren and Alex Approximately by Jen Bennett. And I love both of those, and I liked both of those pretty well, and I kind of like that plot. I don't like the catfishing plot kind of thing, but I do like two people not knowing that they're talking to each other and kind of falling in love on one end and while kind of hating each other on another end, if you know what I'm saying. I think it makes a really interesting plot, and I think it just makes kind of complex characters if it's done well. So I'm really excited for this, and I've been missing really good YA contemporary recently because I have been leaning more towards fantasies. Alright, so I didn't mention this when I talked about Too Cute, but this next category is basically YA before I get into my adult books and adult fantasy that I bought. So the next YA book that I bought was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. This whole haul is basically dedicated to Brandon Sanderson. I just took all these off, so that's why it's empty, but I also have Skyward. I haven't read it yet, but I saw Starsight on sale on Amazon, and I decided to go ahead and purchase it just because I have a feeling that I'm gonna love Skyward. Everyone loves Skyward. I think I'm gonna love Skyward. And I think the covers are so pretty together, like, whew, look at that. I think Skyward's my favorite just because of that purple. Look at that. And look at the spines. I love to see it, honestly. So this book follows a girl named Spencer whose dream has been to go to this flight school ever since she was a young girl, except the only thing that's kind of been in her way of that dream is the fact that when she gets there, her future is kind of entwined with her father's, who also went to the school and who was also a famous pilot, but he is kind of infamous because he is coined a coward. Apparently, something went down where he kind of left his crew behind in order to save himself, so people believe that he is this coward, except Spencer does not believe so. So when she goes to this flight school, she's basically there to kind of combat this legacy that her father left and kind of figure out what exactly went down. I definitely haven't read about protagonists that want to be pilots or any type of flying and things like that. I think that would be a really unique aspect to read about in YA. I've recently been reading fantasy with a whole bunch of these same plots, so I think it would be cool to jump into this YA sci-fi, and I feel like I'm gonna binge the series, so that's why I got the second book. The last YA books that I have are also a part of a series, and I bought these to binge as well. And I bought these all off of thrift books because I was not gonna pay full price for them because I didn't want to. But basically, I started reading this series over isolation, and I decided that I'm just gonna binge the whole thing, all because I want to read the last book, all because I want the last book's cover on my shelf. No, I'm not taking critiques at this time, so move along. But yeah, as you can see, I bought these a while back. I never hauled them, but I bought the Infernal Devices, and I liked those a lot. I'm not buying the Mortal Instruments because I'm reading them right now via audiobook, and they're averaging around 3 stars, and I just don't think they're for me, so I don't want them on my shelf because I don't love them. So there's no reason for me to waste my money on them. But the book that I did buy was The Bane Chronicles, which is supposedly just a collection of short stories about Magnus Bane's life before we meet him in the Mortal Instruments. I don't know if it's before the Infernal Devices, but it's just a little backstory on Magnus Bane. I think Magnus Bane is a really, really cool character. He's probably the best character in all the books that I've read so far. He's also holds the series on his back, but I'm not going to go into any detail on how much Magnus Bane brings to the series. Just know I love him, and I feel like I want to know more about him. And I also bought Lord of Shadows and Queen of Air and Darkness because I think this is where it's going to be at for me. I bought Lady Midnight as well off thrift books, but it came with the strangest odor that I just had to get rid of it. It smelled really bad, and I don't know what happened, but it was bad, so I had to throw it out. So I only have these two now. For some reason, I found this paperback of Lady Midnight in my house with this spine. You can't even see this ring light. But yeah, I found Lady Midnight in my house. So I'm just going to read this copy, and if I want, I'll buy the hardcover another time. I am all the way into adult sci-fi, fantasy, just everything adult. The first book that I got myself, I got off of Amazon. It is called The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. And look at that. I just found out that the cover's broken or ripped, and I hate to see it. But anyway, so this book is pretty hard to explain. It's some type of adult fantasy. I think it's not sci-fi. I think it's fantasy that takes place in contemporary New York, wherein a whole bunch of people who are in New York are starting to feel like a supernatural, I wouldn't say supernatural, but like some type of fantastical connection to New York as a city. So like, for example, it mentions a politician and a mother who can feel the song or hear the songs of the city. There's a gallery director who kind of feels connected to the graffiti, and there's this grad student who can sense the beating heart of the city. So I don't know how exactly fantastical it is in that sense. I don't know if it's a metaphor. I don't think it's a metaphor. It says it's YA fantasy, but I don't know how all of that is going to play out. But it just says every great city has a soul. Some are ancient as myths and other as new and destructive as children. New York City, she's got 6. So I'm guessing there's 6 types of things that people can feel in relation to being connected to the city. The next book is a continuation of a series, and I got this one off Thrift Books, and it is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. My brother's actually reading this right now because he passed me in the series, and he just started reading it during isolation. But the reason why I haven't gotten to this book yet is solely because I'm avoiding reading Morningstar. And I'm avoiding reading Morningstar because I know that heartache is inevitable when I read that book, so I'm not reading it yet. So this book I can't talk about because it is like a continuation of the Red Rising series. So there's first 3 books, Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star, and they're like their own little trilogy, and then he kind of continued with the series with this. I don't even know what time it takes place because I haven't finished Morning Star, so I'm unsure. But Red Rising is basically about a guy named Darrow, and he is in a society in which people are categorized by colors, and he is a red, and reds are basically the lowest on society. And the story starts off with him kind of joining this rebellion against the golds, who are at the top of the society for whatever reason. I don't want to spoil you, even though it is in the beginning. It's really an experience to read it on your own. So because of that event, he is asked to join this rebellion, and he kind of masquerades as a gold and goes into this competition and everything like that. And like I said, I love competition. That book's amazing. If you haven't read Red Rising, do it. I don't know what's taking you so long. It's amazing. I love it. I think you will love it too because I love it. The next book that I bought is also a continuation of a series. It's the second book in the City of Brass series trilogy. I don't know exactly. I think it's a trilogy. It is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. I hope I'm saying that right. But I read City of Brass last summer. So City of Brass is basically about a girl named Nari who lives in Cairo. And she has this type of power where she can heal people. And she doesn't know where it comes from, but she uses it to her advantage because she's kind of a street rat. And so she uses that to her advantage to kind of get where she needs to get in life. And so one day she's using one of her talents and she somehow conjures a djinn. And from there she kind of goes on this adventure to figure out who she is, why she has these powers, and where exactly do they come from. Sapkowski. Ciao. Anyways, so the next book that I got was The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I'm sorry y'all, I've never pronounced his name before, sorry about that. But this book is the first book that is recommended to read if you're trying to get into the Witcher series. Obviously this is the Netflix cover. Everyone knows that this series came to Netflix. When I was watching Daniel Green's video on the top adult fantasies or things like that, this one was mentioned. I've never read The Witcher, never played the video game, never watched the show. I wanted to start with the books, so I decided to go ahead and start my journey with it. So, I don't know much about the series other than the fact that we have this character named Gerald who is a Witcher, and he has these magical powers, and he's some type of assassin as well, and what he assassinates are monsters. But we get this idea that monsters are not always solely evil, so then I think there's some type of moral kind of battle there. Not entirely sure, obviously, because I haven't encountered it in any way, but I think that would be something really cool to explore in a book, and I hope that it is. The next book that I bought might wash me out, and you might not be able to see the cover just because it's white, but it is Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks, who is a fellow booktuber, and I've heard really good things about this book, and I'm really excited to read it. It is an adult fantasy that basically follows 4 kingdoms, and there's a type of struggle with power there. I read the synopsis, and it really just explained what each kingdom was. It didn't really explain much of the plot, so I'm unsure exactly where it follows, but I'm pretty sure it'll just be some type of fight between power dynamics between 4 different kingdoms, and it somehow involves dragons or some type of serpent or something like that. This is called The Rune of Kings, and it's by Jen Lyons, and this is also an adult fantasy. And this book kind of reminds me of Anastasia, or in a way, as you get this guy who grows up in the slums of this city, and somehow he is claimed to be this lost prince, and from there he's thrown into the politics of their world, and he kind of has to figure all of that out. Literally sounds so interesting to me. The next book that I have is pretty much a staple in adult fantasy. If you hear anyone talking about adult fantasy, this one is brought up, and it is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And I also got this one off Thrift Books. You can tell because look at the top, it's a bit damaged, but I don't really care. This book basically follows the story of a guy named Kavoth, and I'm pretty sure it's just him telling his life story, and it's very, very character driven, I've heard, but very, very impactful, and I love a good character driven book, so I'm excited to read it. I don't really know how it's fantastical. I think I was watching one of Daniel Green's videos, and he said some people read this book and don't even realize which parts were fantasy. I think it was that one that he was talking about, and I think that's really, really interesting. So I wonder how that happens. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty excited to experience it on my own. All right, so we're finally down to the last book in this haul. I didn't think it would take me this long. It doesn't even feel like I've been filming for this long, but I've literally been filming for 47 minutes, so we love that for me. Last book that I have isn't necessarily fantasy. I think it's more of like a dark academia, but I think it does have like fantastical elements. But it is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is a pretty popular release last year. Was it last year or this year that this came out? I think it was last year. This book is basically about a girl named Alex who isn't supposed to get into Yale, but she does. And she gets in there to basically be a spy on these secret societies who are basically like messing around with ghosts. And she's the only one who can keep her eye on them because she can see ghosts. And so she's sent there to just keep an eye on them and kind of keep them in check. I don't know where it goes from there, but it sounds pretty good and I'm excited to get to it. So that was my last book in this haul. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and all those things down below. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.